Okay, right. Yeah, shush. Welcome everybody to Wednesday, Whisky Wednesday, and it's Whisky Week Live, day number 3. It's going to be pretty cool. We've got some great guests today, another edition on top of these guys here. So, to my left, or my right on the screen even, is Greg from Greg's Whisky Guide in France, Paris. Welcome, Greg.
Hi, everyone.
Down below me is
Hi,
Andrew from Prestige Liquids again. Welcome, Andrew. And down to my bottom left is Alan, the whiskey friend, hailing from Stockport.
Stockport,
Yeah.
Stockport.
Somewhere up
Keep
north.
guess.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, brilliant. Welcome everyone. Welcome everybody in the chat. Let's shoot over to there and welcome everyone. Got first one in was Rolf. Hi Rolf. Mark Slinger, how are you doing? How those Glendronachs doing? Matthias from Ear Whiskey now, or Castmate.
Hi Luna.
Jay, Bourbon and the Baby, good to see you. Luna's in again, brilliant. Thanks for watching.
Ear Whiskey. We discovered him recently. Ear Whiskey.
Echo. Sorry, my bad, people. My bad. My bad, everyone. That's complete amateurish. Unbelievable. How's that?
Who's echoing, Chris?
Well, no, it's my fault for not setting up properly. Apologies, everyone. It was my fault.
Hey, it all adds to the authenticity.
It's pretty standard YouTube audio issues to start off with. It's brilliant. Okay, let's go through that. It sounded great. Awesome. Thanks, Luna. It sounds better now, though, because now you can hear my voice properly, which is great. Although you could hear my voice properly anyway, because it was the others that were echoey. Greg's gone big again. That's great. There he is. Okay, you're going to have to bear with me with Greg's video. It just keeps going big and small. I keep moving it about, but go with it. Nikki's in.
Online,
I'm doing nothing.
Online,
Sorry?
it looks fine, Chris. On the internet, it looks fine. We're all still the same size on the internet.
You'll see him go big and small in a minute.
Yeah.
Where it's delayed.
Oh, he's moving around in a minute.
Let's get back into it, shall we?
Yeah, come on.
Welcome everyone. Nikki's in from New Dram Drinker. And Paul Gibbs is in, and Bourbon Professor is in by the looks of it. Good to see you.
Hey, Bill.
Oh yeah, today's let's go around each of them. Obviously, let's start with Greg. Introduce yourself, what you do, and what are you drinking?
Well, I've been tasting whiskey since around 20 years. I've been started writing about whiskey on my own in around 2007, and then started to publish things on some forums of websites way before the YouTube and stuff, or beginning of Ralphie. I was just starting to discover Ralphie, and then in 2011 I tried to publish 600-page books, but it was frightening the publishers, so they said no. No way. So I was working on my website idea, and I only started a website in 2013. while I had a lot of experience in whiskey and also in whiskey, some experience, let's say, on whiskey blending and studying the history of whiskey and all that. My experience started with books at the era where internet was not so there and so consulted by people. So I started with books and then switch off to internet. And Ralphie was important for my discovery of what could be a video talking about whiskey. What am I sipping now? I'm sipping one of the giveaways, guys. I have two giveaways for people. We'll see that later on. And one of the giveaways is a French whiskey from which I believe is the best French distillery, which started just before 2000, and it's Glenarmor Distillery from Brittany. And it's probably the same, and I don't see it, and it's a very special expression which called B2 Heights corn, and it's local Brittany barley, which is organic, by the way, in a Sauterne cask, and it's around 7 years old. Yeah, 46%, no coloring, no chill filtering, absolutely great stuff.
All natural.
And it's a nod to malted barley, basically.
Cool. Alan, how are you doing?
I'm all right, Chris. I'm not going to try and go on as long as Greg does, but hi, I'm Alan. I'm the whiskey friend. Just popped in at the last minute, and I'm drinking. I'm just finishing off a Glenfarclas 105 at the minute. So
Good.
Quite popular, isn't it?
Cheers.
At the moment, 105.
it's good to be here. It's good to be here.
And Andrew.
And Roy is with us in a way with your t-shirt, right?
Hi, everybody. We say good morning. I would say good morning for me. It's all nighttime for you guys now. I'll say thank you again for joining us in the chat. I guess this is day 2 for me, being part of these live streams. So clearly, Chris is desperate for people to get on here. So I'll say let's pass it on to Chris, and we'll see how tonight's going to progress.
A few questions. New dram drinker. Well, Nikki, I guess, is asking what's on your t-shirt, Alan. Nikki, that is Aqua Vitae's t-shirt. Alan's very. Did you buy that, Alan?
I did buy it, yeah.
But yeah, quite a few. Them pop up quite a lot. Last drop t-shirts. Obviously, if you want one of them, you know, click the link down below.
I think you're getting a little bit too
Or,
sensual.
if you're lucky, wait until Sunday. Yeah.
But for me, you're going to have trouble because you're going to need 3XL. That's why I don't have any t-shirt of anyone. And also because I can't work with PayPal. That's why I can't do donations and support and everything. It's a shame, but it's life. PayPal and me, we're not friends. I'm sorry, guys. So what are you drinking, guys? Alan said Glenfarclas 105, and you, Andrew, sorry.
Today I've got the Starward New World Projects bourbon.
Fantastic.
Whiskey. This so far has been probably one of my favorites in the Starward range that I've had so far. They've taken their like standard whiskey that they make, and they've aged it for 2 years each in both Wild Turkey and Maker's Mark and ex-Maker's Mark barrels. 52%. So that's a good way to start the morning.
Wakes you up in the morning.
Is it available on export, Andrew? On
Sorry,
other
what was that?
countries? Is it available in other countries, in Europe, for instance?
As far as I know, it isn't, unless the representatives bring samples out to, I guess, any like whiskey trade shows and things like that. But As far as I know, this was just like a members exclusive
Okay.
sale. Yeah,
Well,
it was
we
quite
have.
limited.
Sorry to interrupt you. We have the same problem with South Africa, because last year I discovered, thanks to Janet, I don't know if she's here, discovered whiskies from James Sedgwick, distillery, who does the Baines single grain, which is fantastic stuff, and Three Ships single malt and blend. And these things are sometimes available in the UK or travel retail, but never in France. So I had samples, and I did a special topic on my website about them because I like them a lot. And I hope all these world whiskies will spread out more in Europe, so that people can discover more Starward and Three Ships and other things. For instance, Chris, we have only in France at the moment 2 distilleries from Sweden. One is here somewhere. Where? Here, McMyra is the most famous in France because the first one that was imported in France by la Maison du Whisky. But otherwise, we have now a box which has been renamed High Coast, which has wonderful stuff. But let's say 8 other distilleries, they don't import in France. So we just know by internet and by the World Maltier Whiskey Book. Very useful, guys, this. We just know that there are around 8 distilleries, but we never get to try them unless we buy samples or swap samples with people. And then it's a big problem here. Sorry to becoming maybe ahead of your questions, Chris, but the most problem with the world whiskies is to get to have them in Europe, right, Alan? I don't know what you think about that. And in France in particular.
Yeah, I mean, England's a bit different, isn't it? Because we can get quite a bit of it.
More things than
it does
France.
come in quite
Correct.
a lot. You mentioned Sweden. I mean, I've got what we got.
You got
Magmira and High Coast, which Airpad's just mentioned. Box. They're quite readily available.
Sorry.
But yeah, a lot of Australians not so readily available. There is some Starwoods coming in. I think they just released Starwood Nova over here. Which is like purely matured in red wine casks from like the winery down the road.
The Nova is, I think it is just the wine cask finish that's been rebranded and like relabeled.
Yeah.
Before we started the chat, Greg was mentioning the old label that they had, where it was just a very dark label. Still looked really nice, but now they've changed it to something that looks a little bit more like that.
Star Trekky.
So they've been going through like a bit of a label rebranding type thing recently. So yeah, all their core range, the labels have changed.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll start off with. I'm good. We're talking about well, we haven't really mentioned the topic, but the topic is worldwide whiskies. So yeah, whiskies from around the world rather than Scotch. I'm sort of not including bourbon. Apologies, because that's going to be the topic on Friday. As a general, because it's such a large one compared to like worldwide whiskies. And it's always you got
Chris.
Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. I have just a wee look on the chat. It's difficult for me. It's very small, but Luna is surprised how there's many whiskies from the world that are not coming up to Europe. Yeah. And I think it's also a matter of, to answer her, it's mainly a matter of interest for the importers to make money with it. And if they can't margin a lot, and if the whiskies are already expensive, they may think it's not interesting for their customers to buy some or too expensive compared to Scottish. This is, I think, the main thing for world whiskies. And I experienced that when I was ambassador before the website, before anything, for Sullivan Co, Tasmanian distillery from Australia. And yeah, French whiskies had trouble to export. She asked also for French whiskies because we're lacking of importers and distributors. You might be happy to know, Alan and Chris, that since last year, the first historical French distillery, which is Varanguem, but mostly known as Armoric Single Malt, is now distributed by Gordon and Macphail in the UK, which is a very rare contract to get. Very important for a French company to get distributed by the Gordon Macphail, one of the best and most older, I think, indie bottlers. So you can get now Armoric single malts through Gordon Macphail, for instance. But for other brands, it's more difficult. You have to know there's many distilleries that does only in French 1 or 2 casks a year, or 10 casks. And they almost do no whiskey shows at all, because just to pour to people whiskey to, for instance, La Maison du Whisky organizes Whisky Live Paris, and they get now 10,000 people in 3 days. So imagine a small distillery, a craft distillery, which has only 100 casks, and they will pour 10 bottles, and it's over for the yearly production, you see. So they can't do that. So you have to search for it. You have to meet the distillery, go to see them, and maybe try one of their whiskeys. And yeah, it's difficult. Sorry, too long. Yeah,
Matt in the chat saying Danish whiskey. Matt, it just smells like bacon. I don't know what your problem is.
No, I tried some interesting
Danish.
from Stone Curtis Distillery. I recommend a new Danish distillery. Yeah, and they did a very weird experiment, but it kind of works. I tasted last year. It was a pitted rye. And these kind of things interest me as a blender, because I think amateur blender, okay, there's something to do with that. What are you drumming, Chris? It's very dark.
This is your sample.
Ah, okay. Which one?
Glenamore.
Ah, fantastic. Is it the same?
I don't know if you can see that. This camera's your one.
Just on. Oh, yeah, it's the same.
The B2,
I was talking about. It's the one. It's one of the giveaways tonight.
That's how I knew it was 46%.
Do you like it?
I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. It's in my glass. I haven't sipped it or anything. But I thought, because it's been on my shelf in my sample box for a while. Obviously, since you sent it to me, and I thought, as you're on, it'd be fitting to drink it now. And as you got it in your glass as well, let's just have a little tasting sesh. I know you can't join in, Andrew, and Alan's buggered off somewhere. That's his bedroom. Are you naked in your bedroom again, Alan?
I'm in bedroom, yeah.
There's looking.
Are you wearing hats?
I'm glad that he watched the football, but you
There's
interrupted
a
me,
webcam on the other side of his bed, and his wife's doing something else. I don't know what, but.
Yeah. No, I've just nicked away because I've still got some samples that Greg sent me, so I thought I'd just pick these back out again. I've got some bits.
If you've got the Glenamore, we're tasting it.
Maybe another one.
So, Greg, what should I be smelling on the nose of this one then?
Whiskey.
Whiskey, dumber. What the hell?
Yeah. For me, the barley stands up. The malted barley stands up, very raw, very special. And then the Sauterne wine, which is very subtle and very intricate with the barley, which is interesting. Got another version of what they do, but a pitted one called Cornog. And the influence of the Sauterne is way more important. In this one, it's very balanced, and I think it's very interesting that you have just only a signature of Sauterne.
Yeah, there is a faint,
intricate, the malt barley.
faint winey note.
Yeah, very, very tiny. I don't know if you have the dried fruit and the malted barley at the same time.
Yeah, I get like the barley and the fruit.
Were you drumming, Alan, of mine?
I'm trying to remember.
He was finishing off with one.
I think I had a French. You sent me a French one, didn't you?
Sorry?
I think you sent me a French one.
Oh.
Remember we did some samples together?
Yeah. I still have yours to try.
I've got a few bits left of what you said.
I had hard times, with the heat wave.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
hospital and all that. So I'm just resuming now my tasting of it since a few days. So I have to
Rolf's
check.
asking if
Or
I'm
was it?
drinking from
Sorry.
a child's glass. No, were you there? You were there, weren't you? Clydesdale Distillery.
Oh.
That's that little glass we
I
got.
still have to discover what they do.
That's a great
Children's
nose on
glass.
that.
It's not children glass, mind you. It's the kind of glass they give you in some distilleries because they don't want to spend too much whiskey, right? So they give you wee glasses, and sometimes you can take back home, as I did for sometimes not.
Yeah, I got this. Clydeside Distillery. When we done the tour the day after the gathering.
Oh, did you try the new make, Chris?
Didn't know. They didn't have it to sample or anything, which was a bit annoying. They had it in bottles, but it was,
Well, not cool. If you visit the distillery, they have to pour you something, right?
Yes, Rolf sent me that.
Normal.
Good times. Yeah, it's cool. That's a nice whiskey, that.
Thank you.
In my tiny glass.
My tasting glass, for me, better than the Glencairn, but sorry, guys. But, well, Glencairn is a kind of... I don't know in English how you say that. You know the cars that gets everywhere, 4 wheels, SUV, I don't know the name. It's a kind of glass you can drink everything. Sorry?
Greg, I think all cars have got 4 wheels.
Well,
No,
Robin Reliant or Morgan.
You want to do
I
that?
only got 3.
No, you know the 4.
I don't know. I've seen
motorized-
some European cars with 3 wheels.
No, the motorized wheels, that can turn. You have an
SUV.
SUV, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a kind of SUV. You can drink a blend, you can drink a single malt, you can drink a bourbon.
Yeah.
So these
Well, the other
cans
glass
are
I've
very
got is even
practical.
bigger than a
Oh, well, not bad.
It's like
It's
like
what
a
I call
Glencairn,
a
but there's no
drop-
bottom bit on it.
a drop
Just
of
a-
water. They're smaller than that. They used to
Glen
give
Liver.
away with the bottles in Balvenie and other brands.
Chris, are you doing an advert for glassware tonight?
Clearly I am, yeah. Click the link below for Blast Drop Glassware. There isn't any, but
Glencairn.
there's t-shirts. Go and click
Brought
that
to
link.
you by Greg.
Let's go back. Let's get back on topic, shall we? Worldwide whiskey. So I'm going to start off with the big boy of worldwide whiskies, Japanese whiskey. So Greg's obviously a massive fan of Japanese whiskey. I know this. In fact, Andrew is definitely a big fan of Japanese whiskey as well. Alan, I'm not sure about. So we'll start with Alan. What's your opinion, and what have you tasted from Japan?
Yeah, I've not tried much, to be fair. I've only just gone to Scotch recently, so I've tried a few. Tried a couple of Nikas.
I sent you one that's a masterpiece, but you didn't seem to be very... it's very personal, anyway. The Yoichi 15.
Yeah, no, the one I'm doing, I've done a couple recently. The Nika from the barrel, I've got into that one, which was quite nice. But yeah, I've not been massively into Japanese. So you've just wiped me out on bourbon because I'm doing a lot of bourbon at the minute. So I was hoping I was going to do some of that, but we'll save that for Friday. But yeah, no, Japanese, not done much, to be fair. So you've all probably got more knowledge of it than I have. Greg definitely has, but
I think the funny thing with the Japanese whiskies is that there's the ones that are really good, and then the ones that are rubbish are just absolute rubbish. There's not really from what I've had so far, there's not much of a middle ground in the Japanese whiskey at the moment.
Because
Well, there's... sorry.
Vin mentioned
Go ahead.
Fujikai, didn't he, on Monday? which I haven't tried.
Guys,
I-
you have to know, I
Yeah.
tried over, I don't know, 200-300 of Japanese whiskeys, and I never had Fujikai, which is very recent. So my experience is way more positive than a few who had a Fujikai and 5 or 3
Yeah.
other things. But I'm not very curious after having followed some
Yeah.
reviews of fellow friends on YouTube and even one spitting it.
I mean, one of my first Japanese whiskies was Nika from the Barrel. It's still one of my favourites and still goes on sort of my Christmas lists and stuff like that. And I've had sort of the
I think
Hibikis,
it's
you know, in and out that. Yeah,
many ones, Chris, just illustrate what you
yeah,
say.
cool.
Many
Yeah,
ones,
he's bound to have it.
especially kids from New Drum Drinker, likes that a
Yeah,
lot.
but I think
She might try this.
yeah, that
Sorry.
I've only had the sort of the ones that are quite readily available. Yeah, Nika from the Barrel. I mean, obviously it's quite cheap. It's only what, 38 quid in the UK, 37 quid ish. But then the rest, they start really going up in price now, don't they? I think where they've had these bad issues with barrels and stuff, haven't they?
Yeah. Older
Paul
cat
Gibbs,
footage.
Paul Gibbs has got a Kawasaki 650.
Kawasaki.
Who's got that?
He's got a Kawasaki
Kawasaki
650.
650.
Oh, who, Alan?
Paul Gibbs.
Oh, it's on the
You might
chat.
know him as Bearded Whiskey on Twitter. Is it Bearded Whiskey?
Yeah, but you know what, guys? I don't know if Paul is kidding or what, but Kawasaki was actually a grain whiskey distillery,
There you go.
and it's very, very good. I tasted their whiskies, so I don't know if he's kidding or if he's speaking about motorcycles or
I
whiskey.
think he's
I think
kidding,
he's
Greg.
kidding. Paul, you should have said
think he's
Yamaha.
he could have said that he bought a Kawasaki whiskey for $650.
Yamazaki, the first
Finish
Japanese
that.
distillery.
But yeah, I mean, it's a shame
Gotta love
that
it.
Japanese whiskey at the moment is price-wise is so high, because they do make some really good stuff.
Do you know why? Do you want me to try to summarize this very shortly? Why, or do we have time for
Yeah,
that?
if it's
or-
short.
Okay.
As
Well,
long as it's
for the
the
long
short
story
version,
short-
Greg.
Sorry.
As long as it's the short version.
Okay. Well, let's say.
Use 5 words.
Oh, come on, guys. Let's say until 2000, nobody was really paying attention to in Europe and in the US, let's say, to Japanese whiskeys. And then all of a sudden, in 2001, the Yoichi 10 years old cask strength was entering in a contest, international contest, and it won over any other whiskeys from the US, from the Scotland, from any other place. And then journalists, general journalists, and then whiskey journalists and whiskey writers paid attention to that, and then they were starting to importing them into Europe, for instance, and later on in the USA, I learned, and then they got success in whiskey shows in Europe and mainly in Europe, I have to say, around 2005 to 2010, 12. And then the success was so huge that in 2015-16, I'm trying to be short, Japanese people realized that their way of drinking whiskey, which was mainly what people call mizuwari, pouring a lot of water and ice and soda in the whiskey. So there was almost 10% whiskey in the glass because it can't handle too much alcohol. And then at this moment, started to realize that their Japanese whiskey was good. So they started to buy themselves a single cask, like this one, which is very rare now, Miyagi-Kyo Distillery from the Nikka Group. And then the Chinese started to speculate about it. And around 15 and 16, the Japanese people watched a TV series called Masai. It was explaining the romantic story of the couple that started all in the Japanese whiskey industry. To put a long story short, the co-founder of Japanese whiskey was called Masataka Taketsuru. Alan is gone now. Masataka Taketsuru went to Scotland to study whiskey. Before he was doing only, sake and Japanese sweet wine. And he studied whiskey for 3 years and got back in 1923 in Japan. And he brought back with him a Scottish woman, which was very intriguing at the time and almost forbidden in Japan to have a Scottish woman back and to come into the industry to help her husband run a whiskey distillery. And now she's an icon. And so they did a romantic story about that, and they broadcasted it. They published it every day for a whole year. And then Japanese people get excited with that and started buying more and more Japanese whiskey. So now we can't find Japanese whiskey except some stock still there and some fake Japanese whiskey, I have to say, because the regulation are lower than the Scottish one and US ones. So that's why many times when you find Japanese whiskeys here, which you don't know the brand, which are not the classics, they have the right to import Scottish and Canadian whiskey, bottle it in Japan, and call it Japanese whiskey. So check out well what you're buying, guys.
Yeah, it's all written in Japanese.
I tried to be short.
Cool.
Over to you guys.
I don't know where to go after that, to be honest.
Well, there's many countries. There's around 32 countries, if I'm not mistaken. Now they're producing whiskey. In Asia, in South Africa, I heard also about some Latin American ones, very less known than here. We have in Finland, in Norway, we have in Sweden, of course, for a long time.
You mentioned quite a few.
In Spain, we have in Germany a lot. We have many countries. And of course, there's the huge success following the Japanese success of the only Chinese distillery in Taiwan, Kavalan.
Yeah, Kavalan.
So there's some very great success for this distillery in Europe.
But I think the Americans are also trying to do some malt whiskey as well.
Yeah.
I've seen a few single malt American ones.
Here's a fantastic example, in my opinion. It's Westland, which is very ahead of its time.
I have a sample of that, Chris.
Sorry?
I have a sample of that.
Oh, good.
Your friend Jerry Curse.
This for me very interesting.
Jerry sent me some of that. Yeah.
I named them Distillery of the Year 2016 because they were innovating a lot and brought a lot of things. It's only 3 years old. It's very accomplished already, in my opinion. Using 5 different kinds of malted barley, which is very unique.
Yeah.
So American craft distilleries does a lot of a great job now, and one has to watch what they do, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got like time and the ability to do it, don't they? Whereas I mean, imagine trying to set up a distillery in England now. I mean, can't imagine it.
Yeah, I imagine
it's a hell of a lot easier in the US to do that than it is in the UK.
Well, UK, I think it's exploding right now. You have Cotswold, English Whiskey & Co. paves the way. You have Cotswolds, you have Bimber, I don't know, but New Drum Drink covered them, and it seems to be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm off to Bimber in next month, so that'd be cool.
I think there's planning, Chris, for another 100 distilleries in the UK.
Oh.
Yeah, I think there's planning for about 100.
Mainly gin.
Crazy.
Well, I think they start with gin and then they'll reduce
Yeah,
the
we
whiskey.
have also to mention that many. Sorry, Alan, to interrupt you. We have also to mention that in Scotland as well as in England, people might not know that, but many distilleries that are planning to do single malts or different kinds of whiskey, while they're waiting the whiskey to mature, they have to get some cash and they have to sell something to people. So the gin, most of gin, there's some that are aged, barrel aged, but most of gin aren't aged. So they think they can sell people gin, and there's a boom of gin now in England as well as in Japan. People don't know that. And there's a very interesting now. I learned there were 37 distilleries of gin in Scotland. I discovered some when I traveled there last year. There's very beautiful things going on now about gin. It's just a side of the topic, but sorry.
Gin.
I love gin
Let's
as well.
talk about Indian whiskey.
Indian.
Yeah. So obviously, Amrit Fusion is one of the ones that comes up on a hell of a lot of people's lists.
This one.
Even like their top 10.
Fantastic,
Recently, Rob from Whiskey in the Six.
Yeah.
It was in his top 10, number
Fantastic
8 or 9, I
values.
believe. But still in the top 10. I haven't actually tried it.
Fantastic value, I think, and little lightly smoky and just malted barley, dark fruits, very interesting stuff. There's also, sorry
I
guys,
was at
Paul John.
Yeah. I was at the Whiskey Affair whiskey show. Paul John was there. Craig from Paul John.
There's also Rampur, who is new on the new kid on the block.
Yeah.
Rampur is another distillery now. That's a very special profile of single malts with some rosewood notes, who are very unusual. But yeah, the 3 distilleries in India that do whiskey for export mainly, because they have also local whiskey which is not made of malted barley, but rather molasses and things that Scottish Whisky Association don't recognize as whiskey. And other stories as well, I can tell, but I don't want to be too long. So yeah, there are a lot of things going on all over the world.
I mean, I was at the, like I say, the Whiskey Affair, that show, and yeah, Craig from Paul John was there, and we went through like their entire range, and it was really, really good, and it was interesting because it reminded me a lot of some of the stuff obviously I've seen from sort of the Whiskey Vault with Balcones, and then looking a bit into Balcones and obviously the climate and how that affects obviously their whiskey production quite a lot with the heat basically. And yeah, I was impressed that Paul John could get all these whiskies out. Can't give them an age statement, but they fundamentally had the same aging, sort of almost overall as like a 10-year-old, but in the space of like 3 years, which is, it's a crazy thing and really, really interesting that maybe like some of the big brands aren't maybe looking at shipping their distillate to warmer climates to distill it quicker, but to age it quicker.
I guess that's probably why you have like some other distilleries where they'll do like an experimental series where they'll take a few barrels, put them on a ship and have them sail around the world so they can experience all those extreme types of weather change and things like that. And like you're right when you were saying, like when you consider the temperature in places like Texas or India, Taiwan apparently has very extreme temperatures. Even the Australian climate as well. I mean the weather changes that we get here that will affect the way the whiskey ages it's incredible. I mean, even if you go to Victoria, for example, where Starward is made, that's in one of our southern states. you will literally get 4 seasons in one day over there. It is absolutely incredible. You will get hot, cold, rainy, dry, everything all at once. It's unbelievable. So you have
It's more
a
moderate,
2-year-old
right?
whiskey that tastes as old as, say, maybe something as 8 or 10 years old. And I noticed that's the same with the going back to the Indian whiskies. I had bought myself a bottle of the Paul John peated
Yeah,
cask,
nice.
and that
Yeah,
that
good.
was as good as any like 10 or 12-year-old Scottish peated whiskey I've had.
Can I mention something at this point? Some people, I'm sure connoisseurs know that, but some people might not know that usually the angel share, it's the, the percentage of whiskey evaporating from the cask with the, the interaction with the air and the warehouse is around 2% in Scotland per year. And in India and in Taiwan, it's from 10, I've been told by the producer, from 10 to 15%. So that means it's accelerating, very much the aging. And first time I tried in a whiskey show, peated Amrut, was the whiskey maker before me. I said, "Oh, what's that? Sounds like a Lefroy, 15 years old." He said, "Oh no, it's 5 years old only."
Yeah.
And it's almost our maximum. And they did after that. They did a 10 years old, which is, there were only even less than half of the cask left, a third of the cask left.
That'll be why it's expensive, Greg.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why it'll be expensive.
Exactly. And I wonder also the ppm, and I managed to guess almost the exact ppm there was around for the fusion, around 22. 24 ppm compared to Lefroy 30 or 55 for Ardbeg. So yeah, the temperature, but also the moisture there plays a role to accelerate the aging. While in the US, they have many distilleries now. They hit the warehouses to get their whiskies more quickly aged, and the ABV, contrarily to the UK, is getting up. So they can they can put in the cask something at 50, 55, and it gets off at 60 or more. Yeah, we got examples of that in my collection.
Sorry, I've just noticed Whiskey Pilgrim's comment. A Swedish distillery did a whiskey matured in a cask that had a Christmas soda in it.
Never heard of
Christmas
that.
soda, Frederick.
I don't know. Is it Macmyra, a Whiskey Pilgrim? Weird. Oh, the angel share in rum, Luna, can be really high as well. Yeah, I agree. Everything that's tropical, anyway, ages very, very, very quickly, more quickly than in mainland, Europe or even
But it's
UK,
good as well because I mean, especially here in the UK. I mean, I'm going to go back to the UK all the time because obviously I'm here. But from a price standpoint as well, I mean, Indian whiskey comes in at really reasonable prices. So pretty much the top, the most popular bottles actually come in at sort of sub 50 quid, which is a really good deal, really, isn't it? Because you're getting sort of not fakely aged, but you're getting some decent aged stuff that is quicker,
they have also
and you can get it more readily available.
Yeah, but they have also the high end, like the Amrut Porto Nova, someone mentioned earlier in the chat,
the Solace,
which is a very also the
Avalanche.
Yeah, they do some interesting things. For instance, they age in bourbon, then recast in port, and then goes back to bourbon. Very weird thing nobody does before them. So Amrut does that. They did also an intermediate sherry that I'm sure Alan's gonna love. I got some, but I didn't open the bottle yet. but I will tell
You know my address, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know my address.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And likewise. It works well so far. So yeah, they also have the high end, and I have to say I'm a bit disappointed about Kevlin that once you get into single cask and cask strength now, the prices are getting crazy with some references at 300 euros for something that's okay 5 years old or 6 years old, and sounds more than that on the palate, but still it's a young whiskey for 300 euros, and many of us can't afford that. So yeah, fortunately we have still world whiskies at fair
Yeah, I know.
price.
Price wise, I mean, I've got a little story about a price. I don't know whether I should be sharing it or not, but I recently I'm in a sort of a chat group, huh?
Go on, share it.
Yeah, wait, I won't
Do
name
it.
like names of sites or anything like that, but
Oh, no need.
basically this what was it, the Daft Mill 2009? Is that the most? I think that's the most recent one that's come out, Daft Mill 2009, which is apparently a very, very good whiskey, and a lot of people are raving about it. And Rolf will probably know about this, but they bought it on a charity auction for like $1,000, and then they've put it up on their website for $2,000.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, how
Auction is one thing.
disgraceful is that, really? I mean, I know it's not worldwide
Sure.
whiskey,
Yeah.
but I mean, come on. I mean, that deserves a mention, doesn't it? I mean, you got these flip
Then
little
again,
websites that are just
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I agree.
Chris, I have a Macallan #1 edition, and I paid £80 for it. Right?
Aha.
If I was to put that in the auction tomorrow, I'd get £1,000 for it.
Oh,
Yeah, sure.
I wish I bought a case of it.
yeah.
Who's gonna buy it? Crazy people. But
Sell it tomorrow for £1,000.
Yeah. A multi-haggis muncher said
That's
it's
the
a
same with
2006 Daft Mill.
yeah, but
Okay, that's the same with the Japanese whiskies here in Australia. If I had known how much the prices were going to skyrocket the way they did, because when we started getting things like the Hibiki, Hakushu, Yamazaki 12-year-old whiskies, and even the 18, considering the age statement and being an imported whiskey, they were starting off at relatively decent prices. You could pick up a bottle of the Hibiki 12-year-old for about $80 Australian, which was like pretty good. And that went the same way with the Yamazaki and the Hakushu. Once they started becoming rare and more sorted after, those prices tripled within a week or two after I bought my first bottle. And that was insane. Bottle of Yamazaki 18-year-old, which probably started off here at about $300, instantly went up to about $1,000 a bottle.
Crazy.
and in France it was
I mean, like that.
well, it's more than in France. In France you had good stuff. Yamazaki 18 at let's say 10 years ago, 8 years ago for 100 euros.
Yeah.
The Hibiki 12, I had one Hibiki 12. It was 55 euros. It was nothing. It was not the best of the range. The 17 years old is not the best of the range. I maintain that. I have the chance to try the 21, which was 5 years ago, still at 250 euros, which is absolutely stunning whiskey. I failed to buy one, and now if I want one, it's 500-600 euros or more. Does it deserve this price? Probably not.
No.
It's still very
The crazy thing is, if you go to Japan and you're able to find a bottle over there, if any tourists haven't snatched them up yet, you can still get them for a decent price over there.
Yeah, but I've been told
and
almost
other
nothing
markets.
on the shelves.
Yeah.
Andrew, almost nothing now on the shelves. People visited 6 months ago Yamazaki and Yoichi, and there was almost nothing on the shelves. While 6-7 years ago, I got friends who visited it. There were a whole bunch of 100 casks. There was single cask only for the visitors. around €100 or more. It was Christmas every day, every visit.
I
Now,
don't know if you can see that one, guys. I've got one on here, right? Don't know if you can see it.
Yamazaki.
It's a Yamazaki 2013, right?
Oh yeah, it's not very expensive.
£80 when it came out.
Yeah.
It's on sale there for 6,900.
It's stupid, my friend. I can tell you
£80 bottle of whiskey.
price, not worth the price. I tasted it.
Yeah.
It's very average stuff, honestly.
But it's just gone
Hey,
mad.
don't waste your money.
And we even didn't speak
I've
about
just bought two.
and we didn't
Just
speak
bought
about,
two.
Money bags, Alan.
With me, Alan.
about Karizawa, which was a very famous distillery for the ones that could try it in Europe, especially. And Karizawa was
With me,
founded
Alan.
in 1955. It closed around 2000, and 2010 completely demolished.
With me, Alan.
You could find, let's say, 15 years ago, I got one bottle, around €100. It was single cask, about 20 or 25 years, single cask strength. And now they're reaching €3,000 or €4,000 each on the secondary market. And the older expressions, there's even now €20,000. And it's completely crazy. It's like old Ardbeg. It's speculation.
Just a quick one, guys. Moz Chun's asking, what's your thoughts on tequila?
Tequila casks for maturation or finishing.
No idea
Yeah.
about that. No idea. Except
I would
that
love to.
now it's authorized by the SWA, in which Diageo plays a big role, because Diageo has a lot of tequila casks to sell.
I think Glenmorangi's doing one, aren't they? I think Glenmorangi's doing one in a tequila cask.
I'm not aware of that, Alan.
I'm sure they've got one coming out.
It's not out yet, if so. Because I'm watching what they do.
I'm for it. I mean, if it tastes good, then why not? I mean,
Yeah, I would love to try it.
That'd be hot, wouldn't it?
Just make sure you have your salt and lemon ready when you're about to.
We didn't speak about Ireland yet, guys. Because
Ireland.
it's probably they fight with Scottish to say which one is the founder of whiskey, but they got some crazy good whiskey
probably
as
the
well.
English.
I don't think so. And they have a lot of,
we owned them. We done it.
There's a boom now in Irish distilleries and Irish indie bottlers, one have to say that. And I think we're going to see a lot of things spread out in the future in the shelves. It's a bit confusing now for me because, it's a bit confusing because there's some brands that are not ready yet to produce. They have distilleries, but they're not producing yet. So they're bottling basically someone else's juice.
Yeah.
To pretend it's their whiskeys. So I'm a bit confused when I try some things and I don't know which distillery it comes from. A bit like in the US, they had some.
US do that,
The US
do.
are very much up with that one. Mainly MGP stuff, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, loose regulations. But I have to say MGP does some very good stuff as well. Because Whistle Pig and Old Ambler. Old Scoot, something like that. They have some very beautiful brands made of MGPs. So,
well, here we go.
Did you try that Whistle Pig I sent you, Greg? We tried that yet? We tried the Whistle Pig.
No, not yet. But I'm really interested in it because it sounds like a very good stuff and rare stuff. I think it's a special cask in it. It's a special cask involved, I think.
Yeah, it's a store pick. It's a store pick for a store in England.
Oh,
It's a selected cask that they've got.
Nichols and Perks one.
Nichols and Perks one, yeah.
Yeah, you're very curious of that, yeah. Saving that for a special moment, Dan.
Okay.
Like your Glengoyne 25. I don't forget. I don't forget you. Don't think I forget you.
I got Johnny from.
Sharing, guys.
Sorry.
Pleasures in the sharing.
Pleasures in the sharing.
Yeah.
We got Johnny from Spirits People's just turned up. Thank you for coming, Johnny.
Hi,
You're just in time for
Aha.
pineapple on pizza.
quick fire questions quiz time. I don't know, these guys probably can't hear it, but you can all hear it on the stream. It's time for 5 quick fire questions.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Have you changed the questions?
For you, Andrew, I have, yeah.
Oh, I had all my answers ready as well.
Have you?
No pineapple in pizza.
You changed them, haven't you?
I might change them up then. Okay.
Yeah. No pineapple in pizza, Chris.
Fair enough. Right, okay, well, I mean, the first one's always a good one, but your favourite current whiskey? Come on. Greg.
Good question. Well, I spoke already. I don't want to sound like an advertiser. I'm unbiased, and if you don't believe me, it's your problem, like I said. Glen Scotia 1832, which was a travel retail I awarded last year.
Cool.
Official bottling, the rum cask as well. 15 years old rum cask strength with very fair price. What can I say? I've got a lot on my table. What else?
That'll do. Alan.
Okay.
Drinking I've got a couple at the minute. Glengoyne 25 is definitely up there with one of them. But I'm doing a lot of Allardyce, Glendronach Allardyce 18.
Nice, yeah.
There's worse in life.
I prefer the 12, but...
No, the 18's much better,
No,
mate.
it's not, no.
Much better.
Andrew.
Tell me that in 2 years, mate.
I reviewed it.
Yeah.
Go and watch my review.
Yeah,
12 is
no,
better,
I've
clearly.
Wait 2 years and find out in 2 years, man.
I've only had the Glendronach 12, so it's the 12-year-old that's better than the Allardyce. Go to sleep, Alan.
Where are you putting some pineapple on your pizza?
Andrew, what's your worst whiskey?
My worst?
Worst one you tried?
To be honest, I'm trying to think, what's the worst one that I've had? I really don't know, to be honest. I haven't really had any that I would consider to be really bad.
You have.
But
Alan and I have one.
I have one.
Go on then.
I think Greg liked it, but I hated it.
What was it?
Bowmore 15.
Bowmore 15.
The
Bowmore
darkest.
15. Hated it.
The darkest. Oh,
Darkest.
I
Hated
love
it. No, you commented that you liked it when I did my
love
video.
it. I
Yeah,
love
hate
it. Okay. Amazing.
I'd say probably one of my least favorite ones that I probably had at the moment was probably a Japanese one. I think it was the Akashi White Oak. I think it was. I think it was called Akashi. No, it was okay, but it wasn't great. It had a very strong ethanol taste to it. Very
The white label, Andrew.
white label, yeah.
Well, it's very average, but I wouldn't say it's the worst whiskey I had because I
That's
had
the
a lot.
reason for me.
Also, anything from Jura. Anything from Jura.
Anything from Jura.
No, I won't say that, but the standards are very low now. It's only
Allardyce is rubbish.
No, I have one. If I mention, I hope the distillery won't sue me. It's the only bottle I was offered, so I got less regrets. That finished in.
I tell you a region that's smashing it at the minute.
Oh
Campbelltown.
no, it's not this one.
Anything from Campbelltown, man, is smashing it. Brilliant.
Kilkerran.
No, I'm speaking of finishing in the sink, my friend. So it's not Campbelltown. I love Campbelltown whiskies. No, it was a German whiskey. A German whiskey from.
Chris, next question.
Sorry?
Next question.
Next question.
I didn't finish, my friend. Sorry. Unless you don't want to know the distillery. Maybe it's better like that. Well, it was a bad German distillery.
What?
Finished in the sink.
We go.
Okay.
Yeah, this descended, doesn't it? What's your favourite non-whiskey? spirit? Greg.
I have an answer because it's a bottle I got this year, and it was a
Quick fire,
favorite
Greg.
of mine. Sorry?
Quick fire.
Okay, I love Harris Gin.
Sorry?
I love Harris Gin.
Harris Gin. Nice.
I love Harris because they're preparing a single malt as well. So now they have a gin, fantastic gin.
Alan?
Brandy.
Brandy.
Which brand?
Anything. Brandy.
Okay.
Anything brandy.
So not cognac, French cognac, but brandy.
Yeah.
Traitor, my friend. I'm kidding.
Ararat brandy.
Kidding.
And Andrew was beer. Beer.
Foster's.
Chewies. Chewies
Get
dry.
a cold one into mate.
Cold
Is it
one.
Foster's?
What is that?
Hell no.
We'll do the pineapple. Pineapple on pizza, Greg?
No.
No?
Never.
Alan?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh?
Andrew,
Yeah.
tuna on pizza. Yeah?
Tuna on pizza.
Tuna.
You know what?
Oh yeah.
That depends. If it was
No.
straight up like tinned tuna, no. But I was lucky enough that, say, a few years ago, we had this a
Quick
customer
fire,
that.
Andrew. Quick fire,
Okay,
Andrew.
I'll talk like Greg then. A few years ago, I had a customer that came in and bought us some very fresh yellowfin tuna. We cut that up, put it on the pizza. It was good.
Oh, sambuca, yeah.
I bet
It's sambuca.
tin tuna on pizza is great. I like that. Tuna, onions, olives, nice.
Yeah.
It's almost like
Garlic. Too much garlic,
And,
I would say no, Luna.
tuna
Because it's
niçoise on a pizza, you know? Niçoise salad on a pizza, it's great. Bit of egg maybe, one of those little eggs in the middle, like you do. That's your next big seller. Tell you.
And really, Greg, there's no such thing as too much garlic. Your Armenian background should tell you that.
Oh, you know, there's some tradition of garlic in Armenian cuisine, but there's several branches, and some don't like too much when there's too much yogurt and garlic. And me, I'm on that side. I don't like yogurt too much and garlic on Armenian dishes. But you know what you're talking about. Good, good point. But the basic Armenian pizza called lahmacun, which is what I was doing here, it's beef. It's I don't know, smashed beef, tomato.
Organised chaos. This.
Sorry.
It's disorganized chaos.
Oh no,
Yeah.
you have
This
to
is
try
brilliant.
that.
Because in the chat they're going on about pizza, kebab pizzas. I mean, that's brilliant as well, isn't it? So, guys in the chat, is that a pizza that you've got full of kebab meat and then you fold it up?
Lahmacun and whiskey just go together.
Well, this is it.
I love you, Andrew.
This is part of the chat, isn't it? I mean, this is why
You're not-
you come together for whiskey, but you chat about other crap, don't you? I mean, that's the thing.
Oh, I forgot to mention something. Sorry, Chris, I forgot to mention something. It's a gift I made to a good friend, and I retasted it, though I don't have a bottle of it, and I regret. It's a grappa made from Moscato grape, and
Okay.
it's stunning, of Nonino brand. Of the best thing I ever tasted.
Rebheads just said, you know you have been drunk when you wake up with a half-eaten kebab pizza next to you. But that would have been the sambucas that you had before the pizza.
Yeah, sure. But kebab and pizza
I'm
don't
actually
go well.
drinking cognac tonight.
Chateau de Montifaux.
Yeah,
Repeat after me. Chateau de Montifaux.
Chateau de Montifaux. Beer
Then,
circle.
now you know.
Very good.
Looks-
Very nice.
Cognac from the Petite Champagne area.
Yep.
Gotta do some French, guys.
Bon. Oh,
Greg,
I,
we've
think,
just lost 5 years.
I said to
Sorry?
Vin that we'd sing him
Just
happy
lost 5
birthday.
years.
5 years. I don't get it.
Oh no, we've just lost. When you started talking about friends, we've just lost 5 years.
Oh, it's not fair.
Yeah,
Very
it's
special.
Vin's birthday today, so we all wish happy birthday, Vin.
Happy birthday, Vin.
Happy birthday.
The big 3-3, I think. Memory
I'll
serves me.
say in Australia, it was actually Vin's birthday yesterday. So you guys are late.
You're late. I wished him happy birthday this morning.
So especially for Vin, let's all say. Especially for Vin, let's all say, my name is Vin PF. My name is Vin PF.
Yeah,
My name is Vin PF. My name is Vin PF.
Okay.
My name is Vin PF.
My
name is Vin PF.
But I've also got
It was me, Alan. My name is Vin
my name
PF.
is
It was me, Alan.
The pleasure
It was
is
me,
in
Alan.
the last drop.
It was
no,
me,
it's too
Alan.
soon.
right. Let's do the giveaway,
Focus.
shall we? Greg's going to give away 2 samples of whiskey today. I can't remember what they are. What are they?
Shall I show the giveaways?
Yeah, show the giveaways, Greg.
People?
So I can find the question.
As initial guests were French, sorry, Alan, and I don't have English whiskey yet. I give away a sample of an Australian whiskey from Tasmania Distillery and a French whiskey from Glenarmore Distillery. And for now, even if I'm not an Australian whiskey specialist now, I consider these are the 2 best productions probably of the 2 countries. So it's, for me, a fair gift.
I think that's the sample you sent me, Greg. That French one.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's 2 great
The one-
samples that you can win tonight, people in the chat.
You just have to answer a question.
So all you've got to do is answer a question. I've only got the first question, Greg, but we'll see what that goes, and then there's an easy one. Andrew, it's not C.
Yeah,
It's always C.
Never C.
So can I ask the question now? So
Yeah,
to the
I mean, yeah. Ask your question. Whoever
Okay, to the
answers first
people
in
in
the
the
chat wins the
the 2 samples of
samples.
mine, 2 CL samples. Of course, I'm sorry, if you are in the US, we're not allowed to ship in the US samples.
Unless
So we're
they're
gonna
snow
have
globes.
Yeah, you can, Greg. Just put snow globes on them, mate.
snow. What is that? Well, you're gonna explain.
Snow globes. Put snow globes on it. It'll go anywhere.
You're gonna explain me that later on because I don't know what it is. Okay. So, question for the chat: what is a single blend? Aha. And Chris, watch out for because I can only see the chat very small. Single blend whiskey, of course.
Did it? People, multi-haggis munch of 15 was yesterday. Luna's,
Okay, I
but
think
that would be
I
up
have
to you.
question 2. The plan B probably is the question 2.
Johnny's put left.
Oh my god. Maybe I'm not. Well, let's be fair. I'm
Might
not.
need to do another question, Greg.
Oh,
Ed Rolf has
Ed-
put grain and malt from one distillery.
Ed, you're winning. If it's the first who answered that, Chris, correct?
Yep, he's the first. Rolf is the first.
The winner.
Rolf,
So get in touch
you have
with
won.
Chris.
Yeah.
Get in touch, Ebhead, Ralph. It's Ralph, okay. With Chris, and we'll see for the address and to send you. You're in Germany, right?
Yeah, Rolf. Yeah, you
He's
you
in
know.
Norway,
that.
I think.
Sorry.
I think he's in Norway.
Okay, I think it will work. Okay. Okay, congrats, Ebhead. Hope you liked the gifts.
Yeah, we'll sort it out. I'm seeing Rolf next month actually, so it might be a case you could just sling it over to me and I can give them to him next month. That'd be cool.
Okay, fantastic. That was
You
my.
might be getting bottles then.
Sorry.
So yeah, it's the answer. You want the answer? Yeah, it's a single. It's a blended whiskey made from grain and malt from the same distillery. Examples of that in Scottish history were Ben Nevis did that. at one time. Lochside Distillery that's closed now did that. And there's some distilleries that do that but do not state it because I think they don't even think of it. And I have an example here. It's a French distillery. It's this distillery, Varanghem, which is now going to switch to Armorique, which is the name of their single malts. They did something which was the first whiskey back in 1899, I think, in the French shelves. French whiskey to appear in shelves. It's a blended whiskey made of wheat and malt. So it's a single blend. That's it. You know that.
That's cool. Cool.
Are you guys having other giveaways? I don't know.
No, there's just one a day.
Okay.
Tomorrow's is going to be cool. I like tomorrow's.
Okay, I'm gonna follow every day.
Yeah, you
anyway.
could win tomorrow's. You could win tomorrow's if you aren't. Don't know what we're going to do. Probably another question.
Okay.
But yeah.
Anything in the chat now? I missed.
Yeah. Rolf just saying send them to me and we'll sort it out. Which is cool.
Asterix. Luna is making a funny point with the name of the. Yeah, it's the same area, Luna. It's the same area. It's the Brittany, the small village, you know. Well, it's all. To put a long story short, because you like short story, guys. Everything started in Brittany, in France, for French whiskey, around 1983, 1889. And until 2003, there were only about 6 to 10 distilleries of whiskey in France. Now there are 42.
I'll come back in 20 minutes, Craig.
I'm finished. Come on. I'm finished.
I've got some other other countries on my list of worldwide whiskey.
Yeah.
Not that I've tried many.
Finland.
I have had a Dutch whiskey,
Oh yeah.
but I cannot remember what it was called.
Millstone, maybe.
It
God
wasn't
level?
Millstone, no. That's the one I've got written down, but it was something completely different.
Was it called Gold Member?
Difficult name. I don't know them by heart, but I got some samples to cover.
But it was nice, but it was really butterscotchy. It was like a huge, massive butterscotch nose on it. Is it something Road? Might have been something Road.
But the most famous distillery is Zuidam Distillers, Chris.
Right.
Zuidam Distillers. Never heard of it?
No.
Okay.
Most
They
famous.
have some international prizes all the way, but got some samples to cover for a long time. Apologies, guys.
But yeah, they seem to be, not churning out, but there seems to be a few distilleries over there, obviously. Matthias mentioned earlier, Danish.
Yeah, Stoning Curious, probably.
Yeah.
It's the only one we know here in France and in UK, apparently.
What else? And yeah, South Africa, we mentioned them as well, didn't we? But yeah, the only real sort of almost continent that doesn't seem to... I think you mentioned earlier, but South America. I'm sure there probably is some whiskies there, but they're not making it over, are they? This way.
They have 3 in Argentina. They have 2 in Brazil. That's all I see in Malt Whiskey Yearbook. Everyone has to see that. I'm not paid by them.
This is not a paid promotion.
No, but it's very every year they publish, what's new on the distilleries, and then they have some the owners and some full articles, in-depth articles, and in the end they have also statistics, very useful. If you don't have this and you want full statistics, you have to pay 1,000 euros to get some official statistics, because they're strategical, useful for companies, so they don't give away that, they sell it. This one you have a small resume of it. That's all I'm saying. Any questions
What
on
else
the
we
chat?
got? We got Luna's just got herself a Deanston 12. Me too, Luna. I've
Good.
got it up there. You saw it on Monday, probably.
Well, we're not in the topic, but you can do that.
Just thought I'd mention it, but because it's something in common.
Yeah, I love the 15 organic, by the way. Dinston. I got it here.
Oh, the organic one, yeah.
15 years old. Yeah, very good whiskey, very subtle.
Cool.
Voila.
Has anybody got anything else to say about, worldwide whiskey? I mean, there's loads of great stuff out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think really the more the merrier. I think there's just, I think the great thing is that there's so many countries that can put their own little twist on what can be done with whiskey, and it's incredible. I mean, we've all been exposed to, I guess, Scottish whiskey for so long, and to finally have, I guess, a wider spectrum available to us, it just makes things so much more. It makes things so much more interesting.
Yeah, Andrew, just a thing about originality. Got a thing here from a Normandic distillery called Northman, which is a second time I try in my life an acacia cask. Acacia wood.
Yeah.
You made honey with that. And it's an ex-Sauterne cask. So you see the color, it's only 6 years old, but it's a crazy thing. And it has other specificities. I'm going to review that. I'm going to do a special topic on the website. Don't want to be too long. But it's a bit like Loch Lomond technique to do that. With it's a special still, and there's only one distillation. It's a crazy thing. Usually it's 2 or 3, but yeah, so you got a lot of experiments all over the world, and I think Ireland and the USA are countries to watch, especially. Of course, any others, but especially Ireland and US. I think they're experimenting a lot of.
That's like even here in Australia. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the distillery, but there's an Australian distillery that has started experimenting with Australian native grains, whether it be native barley or other types of, like as I mentioned, native Australian grains. And apparently some of the things that they're coming up with they are supposed to be incredible. Very high quality whiskey. The only unfortunate thing is that because the grain that they're using is so rare,
it's going to stay local.
It will stay very local, and the price of the whiskey itself is ridiculous. I think, like for example, this is a 500 ml bottle. I think they were selling bottles, I think 200 mils or say 20 cl for about $200. I could be mistaken. It was a while ago that I read the article, but I mean, definitely a very fascinating
now, right? Like the price of this now.
Sullivan's Cove in Australia, it's ridiculous. It's so expensive. And that's the frustrating thing for me as well. I mean, unfortunately, I've only tried Starward Australian whiskey at the moment. And that's pretty much because at the moment it's the only affordable one.
Have you tried?
We do have others like Hellier Road, which is probably about the same price point as Starward. But if you have others like Sullivan's Cove or Lime Burners or some of the other bigger, well-known Australian distilleries, the prices are ridiculous.
Have you tried Lark Distillery Products, Andrew?
I haven't.
Because Bill is the founder. I met him a few years ago. Bill Lark is the founder of Australian whiskey and did a lot of things to help the other distilleries back in 2000. And I also one of the pioneers of Australia's Beckery Hill. That guys from the UK have the chance to have bottles there, very few, but we in France don't get allocation of this at all. It's very rare, and 50 cl bottles, but with a good reputation. so many things to say, but
Yeah. Just been sort of semi-chatting to Thomas McCroy in the chat, and he's on about an Icelandic whiskey.
oh yeah. I tried, and I have to review the Flocky, but
Yeah, the Flocky. Yeah, the barley was
Yeah,
smoked using
samples.
dried sheep shit,
yeah, I tried it.
and it tasted
Chris
like
tried
sheep
it.
shit. Apparently.
No, it tastes okay. But I had that in mind when I saw the sample. I saw the writing, and it influenced my tasting in a way. But
like
it
poo.
wasn't as bad as I expected. But I have to say, sorry guys, it's not a masterpiece. It's not. I think it's not whiskey that's ready yet. It's 2 years old, 3 years old, and it's need probably more tight cut of the spirit of the new make, in my opinion. There's some bad notes, faint notes in there, but it's not as bad as one can say. But yeah, I tried Floki from Einvark Distillery. There's two distilleries in Iceland now. It's crazy.
Hey, everybody wants to get drunk, clearly.
Well, they have Aquavite there, not Roy. Hi, but
Maybe he is there. We don't know where he is at the moment.
Aquavit. Sorry, Aquavit.
Agravit.
Sorry.
Yeah, he's using a different name in the chat today.
Yeah. Prestige liquids.
Alan, you look very serious now. Any thoughts?
Oh, I'm just following the chat at the minute. So
Is there something interesting, Alan?
a couple of guys are asking me a couple of things, so
Oh, good.
try
Okay,
and type and listen at the same time.
no problem.
But yeah, no, I'm still listening, guys. Don't worry.
Well, tell us if there's
I've got the
something.
volume turned up.
Sorry?
At the moment, Alan keeps thinking, oh yeah, we're talking about all this world whiskey. The only real whiskey is Scottish.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've got plenty of time to get into world whiskey, guys.
Okay.
Loads of time.
Plenty of time.
You guys have got a wee bit more time than me, right enough, but
Well, I tell you, World Whiskey is obviously massive. Let's touch on bourbon slightly. I want to do a much more in-depth talk on Friday about bourbon, and the US, maybe Canadian. We'll include Canada in that as well. Yeah, what are your thoughts? I mean, my initial thoughts. I've tried quite a few bourbons now, and I'm finding that if you want a decent bourbon that carries a bit more flavour, carries that flavour, it can't be 40%. It's got to be over, because yeah, the 40% stuff is just too watery.
mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think there is a lot at 40% over there, Chris. I think a lot of them are a lot higher than that. Yeah, I think they're looking. The 100 proof is the kind of standard mark, and then once you get into the likes of the Eliza Craigs that he's got there, then it's
Agreed.
that's so.
Agreed, Alan.
Yeah, so I think the 100's the kind of start. We're starting at 40 here, but over there I think it's about 100, 90 to 100 over there. So they definitely have it higher.
My only regret is that there's very experimental stuff that's coming on the scene now. That some, for instance, our YouTubers, fellows, Eric Waite or Scott and Bart from Scotch Test Dummies are trying. But these are so local production, small production, they won't hit the shelves, European shelf for sure. Or maybe very expensively.
Well,
So I regret that. Also, for less expensive stuff, there's the ones called Bottle in Bond that we are sure now they are made in the same distillery and not MGP and stuff. But it seems they don't hit the French shelves. I don't know the UK, but so it's hard to put our hands in something like that.
Yeah,
I think that's what the guys who are into their bourbon over there, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for kind of store picks, or they're looking for bottled in bonds. That's where they're chasing. And it's limited numbers over there. I think the usual stuff that comes over here is your Makers and Jack Daniels and all that
There's
kind of
still
stuff.
some good things, but you gotta search, do your research first, yeah. But there's a really very good websites. Mash and Drum, I like what they do about you know, bourbon and rye. They're very good on Jason. Very good on bourbon and rye. I also recommend Liquor Hound, guy from Chris Trevino, who runs Liquor Hound. People don't speak about enough about him. I think he's very, very good on what he does. He's got a crazy collection you can see behind his videos as well. Just recommending some stuff. And about cocktails, I have to recommend New Drunk Drinker, Anthony and Nikki, who do a fantastic job for newcomers and with fun entertainment, and I really liked what they do. And in UK, of course, we got you, but also Whiskey Geek, who is now a father. So hi Ben, a new father. He does beautiful things with a lot of interesting editing and mouth-watering distillery visits, I have to say.
Yeah,
Don't know if you saw them.
Ben was sort of semi-interested about. Well, no, he was interested about coming on this week, but it was just the completely wrong timing. With the baby coming along. Although I'm pretty sure, having had a baby recently, not recently, but many years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he'd love to be streaming right now.
Yeah, he published a video about Brooke Laddie, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that came out today, yeah.
Yesterday. Very good one. And there's so many people. I'm following a lot, but now I can't follow. There's so many channels now. It's a real boom. It's interesting, but sometimes a bit confusing as well about what people know, what they pretend to know. But I have to pay homage to almost everyone, because I started very recently, and it's really difficult exercise, I have to say. And
it can be, definitely.
And one of your questions you didn't ask today, Chris, is what's your best video in your channel you made? I can already tell you what's my worst. It's my latest one. That lasted 46 minutes, and with a lot of hesitation in it, and 2 topics that shouldn't have been in there. Only one. The finish is. I hope I managed this part, but the one about the barley was a bit confusing.
YouTube is a platform. I think we talked about it quite a lot last night. YouTube is a platform, a medium where you can express yourself with passion, and it doesn't matter. I mean, this talk today has gone from Australian whiskey to Indian whiskey, pineapple on pizza, kebab pizzas.
Armenian,
the Andrew's terracotta walls.
Why not?
It's gone all over the place. But that's the brilliant thing about it, and I think that's what. I can almost guarantee that everybody in the chat right now, I'm looking at them now. That's what brings us all together. Is this YouTube platform where we can share.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not all, drinking whiskey, or, maybe we're at a time zone where we should be drinking water or a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I need an award, by the way, because in my 46 minutes video, I only drank a glass of water.
This is it. This is where we are. This is who we're trying to get out. This is part of what I've sort of tried to get Whiskey Week to be. It's a great discussion where people can come into the chat, have a chat with each other.
I love the chat.
And then we can be on screen chatting about crap, or chatting about proper whiskey things, or pineapple on pizza. And that's what's really good. And I think that's what we need to do. And it's every video I do is an evolution, I mean, if you watch like some of the stuff I'd done originally, it's on my sofa, which is over there, but now I'm in the kitchen. I've got this sort of semi-tone background.
And Alan changed a lot his settings. background, and it's
Yeah,
very
Alan.
sophisticated.
Well, we've seen Alan in his bedroom.
I bought a summer house.
Yeah, and I love your full introduction now.
The
with
problem with
beautiful
that is it's
music
not
and
summer
stuff.
at the moment,
It's
is
very
it, Alan?
Oh, I've just done another video today and I had to do it indoors. The weather was that bad.
It's crap
And
today,
I like
yeah.
his
Absolutely
pores,
horrible.
generous pores in his glasses.
So I had to do it. Yeah, I'm watching my pores now, so
Let us know.
I'm-
Show us, please.
I'm gonna give
Show us your phone.
I'll throw a quick
Okay.
quick shout to the chat.
It's in your
Has anybody got any
Sorry.
questions for Greg, chat?
For anyone.
Because it's not every day that you get Greg
Oh,
with
yeah,
all
it's
his
my only
knowledge that
day
he's
of-
accumulated
yeah,
over the
that's right.
years. Is there anything that
That's
you'd
right.
really like to know about any whiskey or any cognacs as well? Things like that, and he can answer. Anybody?
I've got a question.
Go on then, Alan. You kick it off.
Hey, pick one whiskey. If you could pick one whiskey on a desert island, what would it be?
You know what? I'm gonna surprise you because I had this experience, and you're gonna say not 20 minutes, okay?
Slow version, yeah.
I had an experience in a week of an imposed whiskey to me, and at the end of the week I hated it. So and I cannot drink it anymore. It's too long story, so I stopped there. So to answer you, it will be a blended whiskey because there are a lot of things in it, and I'm not gonna think of a specific aroma or thing, and I'm not gonna get rid of it often. I don't know. It's a good answer. It's my answer now. I don't have a brand in name. Probably something not super good because if it's super good, I'm gonna remember some. I don't know the words in English. Some elements that are stand out. And these are gonna be always the same during the rest of my life, and I'm gonna hate it after all. So maybe it's gonna be, sorry guys, Chivas 12, because it's so subtle that you cannot distinguish nothing, almost nothing.
Cool.
Next.
Well, we've got
What if you just do-
we've got no questions, which is like
No
not cool,
problem.
but never mind. Alan will be in the bathroom next time. Latest comment from Paul Gibbs. Nice. Okay, we go, Luna. Which general whiskey book would you recommend to get into history and production of whiskey?
Well, there's two books. There's one, probably the World Atlas of Whiskey from Dave Broom, which I know the guy very well, but it means you have a certain level already. And I think she has, because it's an atlas of whiskey of different countries, focusing on Scottish whiskey, but it's also the only one that speaks about the new make of each distillery of Scotland. Of course, there's more general paragraphs, but it's in depth. Then if it's a newcomer, I would say Whiskies from the World, which is a collective writing from under the supervision of Charles MacLean, which is a big historian of Scotch whiskey. Things like that. There's a list on my website, by the way. Long list of recommended books.
Cool. There you go.
I think Matt's got another one.
Matt's got
Yep.
one. What's the oldest whiskey you've had, and where did it come from?
Dalmore, 58 years old, including cask from 1878, but recast.
Wow.
And it was a
Was it
person.
natural color?
Sorry?
Was it natural color?
No.
Non-chill filtered?
No, they chill filtered it.
Not my thing. But it was generous pour and secret pour from Richard himself, Richard Patterson, in a show. So I can't blame him. But like I said somewhere, it was so much, sorry, Richard, fabricated. You mean different casks put together, recast several times. and reduced to 40 or so, and chill filtered, and blah blah. It was not the best Dalmore I ever had, honestly. Plus, I always compared this because it was 11,000 pounds at this time, almost 10 years ago, to another whiskey which I think Alan have tried, which is a Bowmore 13 years old Maltman selection, which brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah.
At the time he was out, it was only £100, but only at the distillery.
Mm.
Now it's much more expensive at second.
Yeah, I bought it for about 130. I think I paid for it.
Yeah, but it's ridiculous. It's
silly money now.
30 years old, cast strength, sherry butts, several sherry butts. But it's so beautiful, and to think that they're able, having tasting a lot of Bowmore in my life and a lot of whiskey, to think in 2013 they were still able to do that, for me that brought a tear to my eye. It was so beautiful that make me forgot this Dalmore right away. Even if it was old and a rare opportunity. So I thank again Richard for that, of course. But it's not the best whiskey I ever had. So prices and quality or personal taste not match every time. This could be a great consolation for the audience, I think.
Another question from Anthony and Nikki. What would your topic be if you were to host a live chat of your own?
I think it would be, I thought of it before, I think it would be a Q&A, because I have a lot of experience to share. And maybe, because I still have this to do in video, blended whiskies. A bit provocative topic. Blended whiskies.
I mean, if
And
you
especially
thought about,
Scottish.
I mean, you're really active on Twitter, aren't you? Have you thought about putting it out there that, like, right, okay, next 10 questions I'll put in a YouTube video or something like that? Like, give me a, like, you tweet that you want some whiskey questions. They come through Twitter, and then you'll answer them in a video for YouTube.
Maybe.
I mean, that'd be quite a good idea.
Yeah, like I did the poll for one video. I asked about 4 whiskies to cover in English a video, and 4 in French, sorry. And I had to put the same whiskey in the 2 lists, the Compass Box Affinity, because it had a relationship with the French, not because I'm biased or something like that, but because it has a close relationship with France, with Calvados cask involved.
Oh, yeah.
And to my surprise, people voted for both English and French version of Affinity Compass Box. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go with the 2, and I did the 2.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, you could do like my top 10 questions of the day or something like that. That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I can do that.
Be a good video, because I think people will then relate your Twitter to your YouTube and you know, start going back and forward. That'd be really cool.
Sure, good idea. I note that.
There we go. We just helped Greg out, everyone. Thumbs up.
Oh, good.
Moses Chan is asking. Why did I say Moses? Idiot. Mose Chan.
Hi, Mose. The best. He's the best.
Yeah.
You've been reading your Bible recently, have you, Chris?
Yeah, I've been bashing it. What's the most unique note you've got from the nose or palate of a whiskey? Most unique.
Most unique note.
I mean, I just done Monkey Shoulder Smoky Monkey, and I got Bacon Frazzles. That's quite unique.
He means probably the rarest or the most special.
Yeah, the most obscure, I guess.
Well, it's a tough question for someone who tasted around 3,400 whiskeys.
Stop showing off, Greg.
I'm not showing off, I can prove it. Well, I will answer probably Baby Vomit.
Baby Vomit.
From a Glenturret, 10 years old. Baby Vomit from a Glenturret, 10 years old.
A Glenturret, wow.
Yeah, I was. I have to precise. I tasted it in other bottlings. It was a one-off. But something that's not a one-off. It was a Balekin, which is peated at Rador, and I had this cow dung, very precise note that I hated instantly. It's shit from
Nice.
the cow, and I hate that note. You'd be in some Springbanks and some other whiskies, the light stable note, which is, the cows are entering in the stable and maybe dropping a bit of
Yeah.
but it's just mixed with other notes. But
I wonder if that baby woman thing was a result of bring your child to work day.
No, I think it's a problem with the sulfur problem. With
we've got a question for Andrew from Matthias. Is Australia becoming a whiskey nation?
I'll say we're definitely starting to get more distilleries opening up. That's for sure. I mean, if you say, or I would have to say already, the main Tasmanian distilleries are already quite well recognized worldwide. I mean, Greg has a bottle of Sullivan's Cove with him right there already, and I would have to say that Sullivan's Cove is probably quite recognizable worldwide at the moment. But just from a little bit of research that I've been doing myself recently, there I think are well over 100 distilleries that are starting up at the moment. The only thing is that right now they're still too young to be able to sell anything. So like a lot of other, I guess, craft distilleries, they're starting off making gin and vodka and things like that until they're able to start actually selling their whiskey. There is one in Sydney that I'm curious to try. I think they've been selling their own new make from the distillery. It's called this place is called Archie Rose. They make some fantastic gin. So I'm curious to see what their whiskey will be like when they start selling whiskey.
Okay.
Actually, the awesome thing.
That Star Wars coming off. That Star Wars over here, isn't it? You can get that over here.
Star Wars, yeah.
You can get now, yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know there were so many, Andrew. I thought there were 40, 30, but not 100. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot. But as I mentioned, they're only just starting off.
It's recent, okay.
I think most of them, especially since in Australia, it's 2 years. That's the minimum requirement for aging whiskey. I think most of them are all about, say, 1 year away from actually being able to legally sell their products. So I reckon over the next 5 years or so, I reckon there'd probably be quite a big thing in Australia.
Interesting.
Cool.
Super.
A lot of things will come now. And 4 new distilleries in Japan that will be producing in 3-4 years. That would be interesting, but also frightening about the prices. Because every new Japanese whiskey now is climbing.
Start saving up now, Greg.
Sorry?
Start saving soon.
Well, yeah.
Matthias is also asking to me, can cognac rival whiskey? Which is probably to me, not really to me, it's to Greg as well. Greg knows a lot about cognac. But in my opinion, Greg, and to everyone else, no. I've tried quite a lot of cognacs now. Well over 30, 40 different cognacs. And I just don't get the variation that you do in whiskey. Not that it's not bad, not that it's dreadful.
No, I get you, but maybe Vin knows that. now. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Vim will say the same.
Got
I
some
mean, we were at
samples.
the same show, but
That's what whiskey drinkers always say about bourbon, isn't it? They don't think bourbon's as complex as whiskey.
bourbon isn't, is it?
If you ask me, it's a long story, so you're not gonna like it. But I would say that now that sorry, Alan, once again.
Yeah.
Now that
Short version.
sorry.
Short version.
Short version.
Now that I get it. Now that I tasted many whiskeys and many cognacs, and I visited some cognac domains, I'm less radical to say no, it can't match whiskey, because I discovered single cask and cask strength, oh, it's too hard to say in English. Genuine, let's say craft or everything, with no additives, cognac and Armagnacs. Don't forget Armagnacs. And I was so surprised by the aromatic profile that some of them were beating easily many whiskeys. Such a complexity, such a expressive profile. So now I'm less keen to say, oh no, they can't rival with whiskeys. And I did some blind tastings introducing some cognacs and some Armagnacs, and people were puzzled how good they were. But it's not everyone, of course. The standard one can't rival because they're meant to be like the cheap blended whiskeys. It's something for sipping comfortably for everyone, and nothing gets up, and no special flavors. Not to bother the tourists. I'm kidding a bit.
Yeah, I mean the
Chinese average brandy and stuff. No contradictory. This is what people often sees about cognac, and it's a pity because you have very beautiful standing out cognacs. And I would say that for what Alan was saying there about bourbons, I don't know this one, so I can tell. But
it's really nice.
I've tried Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, and before that some crazy Mictors and Four Roses small batch cask strength. I cannot say they can't rival Scotch. It's different, but it's as expressive as complex. Maybe.
I think you'll be surprised, Chris, because some of the stuff that Jerry's been sending me, some of the age stuff, the older, some 13, 14, 15-year-old stuff, is equally just as...
Yeah, I agree. So there's beautiful whiskey, not everywhere, but in many places, let's say, to answer Chris, and beautiful spirits. But probably the spirits for some moments and other spirits from other moments. And some has to be simple, but very expressive, and others has to be complex and take more time to assess and to appreciate. I don't know. Sorry to be long.
No, cool. Greg, Paul's got another question to Greg. What was your first ever whiskey?
Well, I've did some research, and I think it's probably the one that my father had as a gift, but I still wonder if it had too much OBE or not. It had it for a long time, and it was a Grand Old Par, 12 years old, blended whiskey from Scotland, with some metallic and smoky notes that were intriguing me. First, I hated it, and then I kind of got used of it. And then, of course, it was Johnny Walker Black and Glenlivet 12, stuff like that.
Oh, right, Andrew's off.
Got some pizza for us.
I think he's sleepwalking.
He's had enough of that. Right, no, done that. Right. I'm off, mate. See you later.
Yeah.
That was not the last drop yet.
Well, I was going to say that. I mean, we're getting on for time, really.
Okay.
Should we wait for him to come back or not? I don't know.
Well, yeah, we have to be fair.
He was drinking too much water. What's
No, I would like to ask Alan, maybe, what's your most recent go-to whiskey you loved a lot and you didn't spoke yet on your channel, maybe? Recent favorite you're gonna do? Let us do a teaser.
I'm doing a little Glenfarclas range at the minute, so I'm going to go through the core range of Glenfarclas because it's been a while since I've had any of them. But I've just done my last video was it's the one next one that's coming out is the 12-year-old, which really surprised me.
Yeah, it's different. A different recipe.
I've called it the Dangerous Dram.
Oh, okay.
So the Glenfarclas 12 is going to be, there's a little scoop, it's going to be called the Dangerous Dram.
Yeah, easily
You
see.
have to watch it to find out why it's the Dangerous.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Andrew, before we leave, what's your... sorry, Chris. What's your latest go-to dram? One that you say, oh, that's very good, I'm going to cover it very soon. And if you like to say, of course. As a teaser for your watchers, your viewers.
I think for the next run of reviews that I think that I'm going to be doing is that I think I'll be doing a 6-part series of the range of starward whiskies that I have.
Oh, very curious to see that, Andrew.
So yeah, at the moment I've got obviously the bourbon cask. This one here is the twofold. I've already reviewed this. This was actually my first YouTube review. So if you scroll down all the way down to episode 1, that's the first one that I've done.
Yeah, I saw it.
The interesting thing was when I did that video, that was a neck pour. By the time I get around to doing it again, it will most likely be a bottle kill. So.
Let it become a bottle kill, like our friend Keith. Hi, Keith.
Funny enough, I did something similar on one of my own live chats before, where I had 2 bottles of the Wild Turkey Long Branch. I had one that was at the bottle kill level, and I had one that I had just bought, and I had done a side-by-side comparison of them on a live stream. So yeah, that was really cool. But I think at the moment, the next thing that I reckon I'll be doing will be a 6-part series of uncut reviews for Starward.
Looking forward to it.
Cool. Look forward to that. I'm switching back to cognac. Well, not switching back, but I'm going to do some more cognac reviews. That's going to be cool.
Great.
A bit more independent ones, not any of the big boys. I mean, yeah.
Might send you others, Chris.
Ah, cool. Cheers.
I don't have very much, but...
Well, we're getting on to that mark, so...
okay.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thanks.
It's been brilliant to have you in. Thank you, Greg, for joining us today. It's been absolutely brilliant. Your knowledge is impeccable, as always, and it's really interesting. I know we say keep it short, but... it's a real pleasure that we can.
It's a pleasure to share it with you guys.
Those stories, that information out of you, because this is how we learn. Thank you, Andrew, for joining me again. Brilliant to have you on. Alan, thank you for coming in last minute. That was great. And we'll see you tomorrow as well. Andrew, we'll see you on Saturday.
Saturday, I think it is.
Saturday or your Sunday morning, mate.
It'll be my Sunday morning.
Sunday morning.
So, Chris, it finishes on Sunday or next Monday? I don't remember.
It'll be Sunday. Sunday for Andrew, but it'll be Saturday for us. But yeah, brilliant. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for coming in. Thank you, Luna,
thank you so much,
sticking around. Thank you, Airhead. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, New Drown Drinker, Nikki, and Anthony, stroke Dave.
The best.
See you, Dave.
Bye, Dave.
We'll see Dave on Sunday. So yeah, brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Thank Multi-Haggis Manager.
Just a quick one. Ask Nikki if Dave dresses up as Dave.
Sorry?
He might be Anthony one day, but does he dress up as Dave a different day?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we got that already.
I think the other thing would be like every now and then we'd be like, hey, call me Dave.
Hey, Dave. Hi, I'm Dave.
My name is
He probably goes outside the door and rings the doorbell. Hi, I'm Dave. How you doing?
I'm Dave.
I have a package for you.
It's whiskey.
Yeah. I have a little package for you.
Yeah.
I have no.
I've got
Why
some.
don't we hide?
I've got some
I have
dick
a
for you.
No special effect, Chris, today for us.
Sorry.
No special effect for us in your bag.
Yeah, there is. They've been going on. You'll
It
hear
was
them
me, Alan.
if you watch it back. You'll hear it.
My name's
They're all there. I know them all.
Okay.
But yeah, everybody point at the screen.
Yeah, that was the last
And
drop.
that is the last drop, everyone.
Last drop.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.